Welcome to Women in WP, a bi-monthly podcast about women who blog, design, develop, and more in the WordPress community.
Welcome to the show. I'm Angela Bowman.
I'm Tracy Apps.
I'm Amy Masson.
Our guest today is Birgit Pauli-Haack, who builds online businesses, solutions for authors and publishers to connect with their readers, for nonprofits to connect with their supporters, and for small businesses to connect with their current and future customers. Welcome, Birgit.
Well, hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's such a great pleasure to get to chat with you.
I was really excited that you volunteered to visit with us, and I got to be on Gutenberg Times a few months ago and had a really great time. And you've really made your presence known through that, which is pretty awesome. And we like to start off each episode by asking our guests about their journey to WordPress. So how did you get started?
Oh, WordPress origin story. So in 2009, I was the president of a local nonprofit, all volunteer community network. And we had about 40 nonprofits on our system, hosted with with a CMS that was built on Cold Fusion. It was about already 6-7 years old, hideously outdated. And so we needed a new thing, because people didn't update it and it was just not doing it. And WordPress was the choice among 20 other CMSs that we studied on the team. Well, we were a tech team. They were all Cold Fusion based. We didn't have PHP developers, but it was still our choice because the community was so great. Yeah, there's a great support system. The codex is very complete, and there's a focus on ease of publishing. So, and after we taught people from 40 nonprofits how to migrate their content, through copy paste and reorganizing it, they were all happy. And the funny thing was, all the techies kind of went away, and the newsletter editors and the marketing people and the president, who actually had something to say, came in, and they were so empowered, mostly women, and they really loved it. And that kind of was the first thing where I said, okay, well, I guess in our business, we started then the year later to use WordPress for new sites. We still have legacy sites, and but so that's the WordPress origin. I said a summer with WordPress.
I'm curious to hear, because I can't think of 20 other CMSs. I mean, I played around with a couple other ones, but what were some of the other ones that you remember that you had studied?
So there were two. So we were a Cold Fusion shop, and at that time there were 3 or 4 CMSs coming from the Cold Fusion community. So those are 4, and then I don't remember either. But we went through the list of Joomla, of course, Drupal, the other open source ones were also on the list, and then there was another one.
I did movable type,
Connect 5 or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, something page something. Yeah. I don't remember what.
So we got 6 out of 20.
That's Well, I mean, hey, that's good.
Yeah, I didn't test all the 20 till going it down to the nitty gritty of it, but to narrow it down to 5 and then test those, and then make a decision on the tech team what we're gonna do. Yeah. Pretty interesting times.
And how did you, how many people were involved in your process of selecting one? Like, we're going to pick this out. We're going to have one that we use. How did you guys come together and you people come together and decide?
I think we were 4 or 5 in that process, because of course, as the president of the organization, as well as the program manager, I think I had 6 or 7 votes accumulated. But I also, we needed to think through the process on how to spin up a new site when somebody comes in and gives us a check and then fills out the thing. How fast can we spin it up to get the momentum going? That cannot take a week. It needs to be pretty much now. So we also looked at a reseller for hosting that we can use, and then kind of spin it up from there, and have some admin with what is it, WHC or something like that. That was a management tool for websites and hosting that you could use.
Yeah, I remember that. It was very confusing. Yeah.
That's like a control panel kind of admin on the server side.
Yeah, it was a little bit more, because it also was maybe it was it's a subset of control panel. It is, yeah.
Yeah, the parent admin or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Well, it
So
was.
yeah. So you were building sites in Cold Fusion and then transition to WordPress all the time, right? When did you get involved in like the WordPress community as part of this journey?
So we built so the content management system was a browser-based system building Cold Fusion. Yeah, it was not, we built it hand coded in Cold Fusion. But yeah, I got involved in the WordPress community. So I built the WordPress community on the local level here, in terms of nonprofits. And then I saw something about WordCamps and this kind of thing, and I said, well, maybe we could do one, yeah, and focus on nonprofits. And I got a big no-no from the from Central, but they also said, well, if you want to be involved in the local WordPress meetup, so I did that, and so I migrated some of the teachings that I did and some of the meetings, opened it up for businesses as well, and then the WordPress meetup organizer sent out a message to the members that he's stepping down. And I said, well, I did this all the time, so I can do that. Yeah, and so I did this in 2014. Yeah.
So before you found yourself as president and then deciding through all of the stuff, what was your background before that? Like, how did you get into like even just in the nonprofit space?
Well, I started building websites in 1996. So it was a hobby. And I found myself being part of some kind of citizen net in Munich, Germany, that was just kind of spinning up because the state of Bavaria had some free bandwidth at the university and said, okay, well, let's let more people use it. And they subsidized a kind of a nonprofit locally. And I was doing a lot of HTML, a directory of all the websites that people are building and all that kind of stuff. So it was community work anyway, but it was all a hobby. In my day job, I was a restaurant manager, general manager of a large restaurant with 50 people and 1,200 guests every day. And yeah, having a hobby with computers where the computer does not talk back. It does what you tell them to if you know how to tell them. Yeah. So it was kind of a little get out of my headspace, away from people into the computer. And that was one thing. So I taught myself HTML with Homesite X, and had some ideas, and then came across a group of German web builders on AOL. Actually, I was a field tester for AOL in Germany before they rolled out. And we got together and we talked about things, and yeah, it was all very nice, and it was a lot of creative people, and someone had a very nice directory or tutorial for building web pages. Helped him propagate that. And then I started a website, and so what I found, so I pretty much got into the ideas about free speech and internet, and in Germany, there is a law that you cannot propagate any National Socialist Nazi kind of propaganda. And if you do, then you could go to jail. That's kind of out of our history. And but now what happens is that all the neo-Nazi groups that are in hiding went and published their stuff in the United States in German. And there was nothing on the historic side or on the educational side or on, even from the memorial sites or something to offset that a bit. And a friend of mine and we had a linked list of things to learn about the Holocaust. And we said, okay, before we put another curated list together of links, why don't we publish German content to offset some of that free speech United States kind of, we can't think that they allow it, but there is no way for German jurisdictions to chase them. So you can only offset it with fact information. And that was kind of the first experience that I had to say, okay, we need to do something there and provide more than fake data out there. It was very interesting. So I built a site called Shower Project. It's still online, and it was then also used in some books and talking about how to put information online. And we were a group of 3 or 4. Each one of us had a different set of things that they did around the space. So it was quite interesting at that time. And that went live in 1997. Yeah. And
it's around the same time I started. Yeah, I started doing like the 96, and I really like what you say about that. Yeah, there's no way to catch someone that's doing these things and posting these like nonsense, right? Except for, you know, offsetting that. And I think that's such a great like way of doing that. Yeah, my websites back then, I'm pretty sure were just a lot of animated GIFs.
You can revive that now. They're in.
Exactly. Blink tag and everything, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So it's illegal in Germany to post Nazi propaganda on the internet. But if you're a German...
to publish Nazi propaganda, period. Not only on the internet, also in books and pages, in newspapers.
So if I'm a German citizen and I buy web hosting in the US, I can then post my German content. So I get that it makes it very difficult, but if the owner of the web hosting account is German, couldn't they still find some kind of way to?
No, if it's an American company and it's all hosted in America, there is no legal ramification there. If that person is a German and is in Germany, he still is kind of an American company. So why are you going after me, kind of thing? It would be different if that person had a printing house in Germany and printed everything out in a newsletter or something like that. Yeah, but it's really hard to kind of, as soon as they get out of the German jurisdiction boundaries, to actually, because there are a lot of countries that value the First Amendment in America, for instance, or the free speech so high, that even kind of following up on it, it's very hard. I like that it's in Germany, but it's already watered down, and it's only for the extreme. So you're not preventing. It was a long time, for maybe 50, 60 years, there was kind of prevented also that openly racist or openly xenophobes could kind of not express it, but that has changed kind of in the last 10, 15 years, that's still political discourse or accepted political discourse, and you can get to a government position despite your...
Well, we don't know anything about political discourse here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm yeah. So I used to say that in Germany, religion is multicultural. No, religion is bipolar, because we only have two, but that has changed too. But it was the Lutheran and the Catholic. Yeah, and party-wise, we are all multicultural and multi-party kind of thing. And in the United States, it's the other way around. Yeah, you have a bipolar Democrat party system, and anybody can create a church, pretty much. Yeah. So.
Wow. I would love just to talk about politics and religion all afternoon. But let's get to one of our WordPress controversies, which is, I guess it's sort of controversial, maybe not, but the Gutenberg editor.
Oh, less and less controversial.
Yeah.
The level of drama, I mean, it's a little less extreme.
A little less extreme than probably
just a little.
neo-Nazi. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea where you were going to go with that just now, Angela. I was like, what's she going to drop?
Oh, no.
I don't think there are any parallels on either side.
The Gutenberg editor. Let's just get into the dirt now.
Yeah, the guy Gutenberg was a German person.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's true. Yep.
So, at what point did you accept the Gutenberg editor and get involved with being such an incredible evangelist and now leading up the documentation, the end user documentation for the block editor? Like, what drove your passion?
I think it came from the experience that I had with the nonprofits when there was using such an easy to use back then tool to publish, to see the stars in the eyes and all the creativity that came out of it. That when I saw the first demo video in June 2017 at WordCamp Europe, that was the first time I was kind of introduced to the public, and the Gutenberg plugin was available in the repository. It was pretty much first love of first sight. So I knew exactly where it would be able to go and how it would change how people perceive WordPress, new people who come to WordPress with no background, and how easy it would be for them to use it. So for me, it was just finally, innovation. It's not perfect, and it's still not perfect, but it has done such a great, sparked such a great creativity among theme developers, among plugin developers, and site builders, that it's just amazing, what happened with that. But once I talked with, I only collected things what people would do with it, that were also inspired by that, and kind of figuring it out, and kind of thinking, okay, how could I use it? What are the first blocks and all these kind of things? So I just keep tab on it on a Storyfy or so, on Storyfy, and every 2 weeks or 3 weeks I would do updates, and then Gutenberg Times came about that because Storyfy would go away. Adobe said, well, it's end of life, people. Get out of there. I said, okay,
Every time something's useful, they're like, well, we're just going to close it down. I'm like, but I was using it.
And everybody else was, and all my links go dead. But
yep,
it's tells you again the story. You don't build on rented land. It's any day.
Yeah, exactly.
On any day. I used Storyfy for 6 or 7 years actually. So I had hundreds of Storyfies that I was curating information in. But just own your stuff, and you don't have to worry about that thing.
Yeah.
Oh, did I lose you? Tracy, we lost you.
Oh, there. So do you remember Delicious, the Bookmarks, whatever? It was like this thing. And then like, I think Yahoo, it was like under Yahoo at some point, or bought out or something. And then they were like, there was like this leak of that said it was going to be sunsetted. And like everyone was like scared, because I was like, I was using this as my, all of my bookmarks and stuff. I found a WordPress theme that looks like and behaves like that old Delicious website. And then I use the bookmarklet on my tab bar on my browser, and then it just creates a new post, and then I put in the tags, and I can filter by tags and everything. So I have my own, like, I built my own, and I still, so I can keep all my links and stuff.
Yeah.
I need to see this.
Yeah, I think that needs to be in the show notes.
I actually think thisroad.org it's public. You can go and see all the things that I've been bookmarking. But yeah.
Yeah, I was happy that Delicious was sold again to a guy who then integrated all the Delicious links into his app. And right now, the name of it escapes me, but I'm supporting it with my annual fee. And it also, where you can do comments on it. And for a while, I used it as a newsletter, a link newsletter kind of thing, where I had the link, then I would put in my comments, and then the MailChimp RSS feed would come in and kind of crawl it and send it out. Yeah. So yeah, I know, Delicious. Yeah. I need to go back. I think I had 1,200 links in there. And only half of them tagged. It's like my
of course
bookmark list in my browser. Yeah, kind of put it in there and you're never going to look at it.
Hi, Women in WP listeners. This is Angela. We will be right back with the show to learn some cool things about working with the Gutenberg editor. I want to thank the sponsor of this episode, Malcare, your go-to resource for WordPress security and hack repair. It can really ruin your day if a client calls you because they have a hacked site. And what's even more difficult is knowing what to do about it and who to refer them to. Cleaning it up yourself can be a nearly impossible task. And going to the web host sometimes can take a lot of time to get them to respond and even clean up the hack thoroughly. The thing I like most about Malcare is how simple it is to use. Unlike other security plugins with an array of confusing options, you simply install and activate the Malcare plugin. That's it. It begins immediately to block brute force attacks to your site and protect your site with a firewall. Then, unlike regular security plugins, which are quite resource intensive as they run all their scans directly on your hosting account, Malcare is different in that it copies your site, encrypted, to their dedicated servers. All of the scanning processes occur in the cloud, ensuring that Malcare never impacts the performance of your site. Malcare's regular, deep, clean scanning of your files and database can dynamically detect even the most complex malware. And this ensures that, first, as a preventative measure, you're the first to know if your site or client site has been hacked. But even if it's already hacked, you can use Malcare's one-click instant removal tool to make your site malware-free in minutes instead of days, which it can often take if you're working with a host or a malware cleanup service. And it's at a fraction of the price. To get started with Malcare, please visit malcare.com/womeninwp for 10% off your first year of protection, or see the show notes for a link. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
So tell us, I'll move on from delicious as that conversation is. Tell us more about your podcast.
Well, the podcast is called Gutenberg Changelog. And I co-hosted with Mark Urain, who's the design lead on the Gutenberg Phase 2. And we talk about what's happened in the last 2 weeks between releases. And we talk about community contributions. Sometimes we have listener questions that we collect from either email or Twitter. And then we go through the things that are in the works, what was released, and kind of talk about the different features that are in the release notes. Not all of them, because the changelog is just always a mile long. Yeah, the team does so much work every 2 weeks and release it that it's really hard to stay on top of it. And then we have some discussions or links or information about what's in the works, where the Gutenberg development team is, for instance, tackling global styles or block directory or themes, block-based themes, and then have a call for comments. Because I've with that, we tried to surface the whatever is on the Make blog for the various teams, so more people have a chance to have their opinion heard. And if they don't know about it, how would they go there? Yeah, but it's also something that I feel strongly about, that the broader community, if they care, should be have early input. And that was part of it, learned out of the 2 years of developing Gutenberg first phase, that there was a lot of discussion available, but nobody surfaced them except me or those who were ranting against it. But so that's that. Podcast was normally about 30 minutes. So if you don't get to read the whole what was released, kind of listen to the podcast in half an hour, you pick something up, and then you come to the show notes, and then you have all your links. Yeah. So that's pretty much the podcast. Sometimes it doesn't work out because we travel with a 2-week rhythm, and then sometimes Gutenberg development does only a week between releases. But we're pretty good in kind of coming every other week online, and we have a growing listenership, but it's a very niche podcast. Yeah.
And the podcast I was on was different, though. That was more,
Yeah, that was more the live Q&A on that we do on YouTube channel. I started kind of making it into podcast, but it just kind of was so overwhelming with that, also with the transcripts and putting it online. And so we only do what you do, kind of a 4 people Brady Bunch view panel discussion on certain topics, and then publish them on YouTube, invite people to come for user questions. Yeah. And we have between 30 to 120 people, depending on the topic. The last one was with the theme review team and a theme developer, Ellen Bauer, William Patton from the theme review team, and Rich Tabor on rethinking themes. Kind of have a theoretical kind of talk it through. And then a week or 2 later, no, maybe a month later, we had Enrique Piqueras, who's actually building the full site editing tool, doing a demonstration. So there's always some, and I was really surprised that those 2 really picked it up. Yeah. So there are a lot more theme developers out there than I had actually thought.
I feel like I want all online documentation to be in that format, because that's something that, like, I learned, I'll miss something if I'm reading it, but if, like, to see and hear people talk about it, and especially people that are like working with it or are creating it, and just to figure out to, like, oh, this is what we've been doing, this is the updates, that's so priceless. I love that you're doing that. I think it's really, really valuable.
Oh, good. Yeah.
It's interesting to me that, it's not like someone came and chose you to do this and be this kind of center of the Gutenberg universe. Like you.
You're putting too much pressure on me now.
But I mean, in a way you are.
We're changing the logo. It's going to be your face.
Birgits Gutenberg.
Or Pantheon, they called me the Gutenberg Crusader.
The Gutenberg Crusader.
The weapons around me, and I'm defending it.
But I feel like that's a testament to, if you want to take a place, you can just take your place and own it. And then you get people kind of coming around you. I guess you probably need to be a nice person. When you wrote to us about your experiences, you felt like that WordPress was a really safe space for women, for people of color, for LGBTQ, and so on. So, but as that person who wants to take some space, what do you feel like the qualities are that you bring that allow you to be someone that people do want to play with and engage with? And it's one thing to be accepted for who you are as a woman or whatever else you're bringing, but it's another thing that you have to bring something to the table too. So what qualities do you feel like you bring that? make you successful in this?
Well, I credit the central community team that kind of really opened my eyes in terms of how to be a less assertive person, not because I need to take myself back, but because I to listen more. Yeah, this is so WordPress is a space with many people where English is not the first language, the second language, or third or fourth. And being that person, I cannot understand that if something is a little bit awkward written, and a lot of things are written in the Slack channel or on Twitter or wherever, that it does not arrive at the American view or the English native person kind of quite as rude kind of thing, or quite as awkward is probably a better word. And so that's one thing. The other part is that I learned so much from talking to people about how they how they experience WordPress, what their journey is in WordPress, and how their daily life has changed with WordPress. Yeah, HeroPress is definitely a place to go and see how big the community is, and I'm actually marveling on that every single day. And I think the openness to that, having lived in Europe and having lived in the United States, being a bridge builder to some of that, is certainly one of my qualities. Another one is that being on the global community team, I also do a little bit of mediation, or kind of called in with other people, kind of looking at some case, and then learn how different things are perceived by different people. Yeah, kind of, even if it's among alone, something among guys or men is kind of acceptable, but when a woman is there, it kind of makes that woman really not be welcome. All these kind of things that kind of happen there. But I really appreciate that's so different from any other community that I'm in, that WordPress is such a safe place for women and LGBTQ community and minorities, yeah, African American or Africans or Indians, or yeah, kind of that we all can come together and build something really powerful out there. Yeah.
I really like what you said about the bridging between two, because I experience that a lot in life, where and instead of looking at it like I don't fit quite completely into this group or completely into this group, but looking at, but because I have aspects in I have my feet in both camps, to really to like focus on that and whatever, which is really, really powerful. What have you been like? How have you found all the people that, how have you networked to connect to all the people that you brought onto the podcast, or the people that you've, just interviewed, or, whatever, like, how do you just dive into that, especially as a bridge, like, in the groups you are?
Yeah. Well, I find them online. I have a listening tool that gives me everything on Gutenberg, not only the blog editor, but all the things Gutenberg. So I need to kind of wiggle that down. But so I know people. I learn from people, even if they're not on Twitter or on Facebook or something like that, that they publish something on the website, and I read this, and I have to really catch up with a few things that I haven't read yet, but I'm always about 2 to 3 months behind of things, but it's always good because I see that the bugs are out, and yeah, other people have done something that I haven't quite grasped it. I said, oh, that's how it works. Okay, now I get it, kind of thing. But it's just, I find them on the internet, and yeah, I read a lot. Yeah, and then I connect with them and I tell them what we do, and most now have heard about Gutenberg Times. Before that, it was just personal connections that I found online, and that kind of connected with me, saying, I help you out. Kind of, I have a problem with Gutenberg, can you help me out? Sure, do this and this and this. Yeah. And then said, yeah, well, but I like what you do. You're a publisher, your website. Yeah, do you wanna? You're an early adopter. Do you wanna come? Yeah, for a nice chat on our live Q&A Back then it wasn't a live QA, but no, it's no different. Yeah. And
so you're working with, so you're the Gutenberg evangelist and you're building sites for clients. And then are you training them on how to use Gutenberg, and how does that go?
Well, they hardly need any training. Yeah, kind of. Most of them pick them up quite easily, and are off to the races. And I've never heard from them again, which is good. That's kind of how I want them to end up. Is kind of be weaned off of that.
My clients aren't like that.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that some clients are not like that. I think I have narrowed down what kind of keeps people from adopting Gutenberg at one point, or kind of the first anxiety-inducing moment. I think I've nailed it down, because it's kind of, you write something and then you hover with your mouse on something and then all things pop up and go away, and then you don't know where it was and what you did to see it, but then you need to go back it. So so one tip is to really pin the toolbar from the block to the top. And then you get a nicer, quieter workspace. Yeah, there's on the settings, top toolbar, and then they get up there. So you can explore it as your own pace. But it's so in your face sometimes, yeah, for easy discovery is the logic behind it, of course. But I can see that for someone who has this quiet, white space before, and all of a sudden it's not so quiet anymore. It's like moving into another neighborhood. Yeah, all of a sudden you hear a church bell, you hear the train come, and you're up all night and you're distracted because your flight and your lizard brain tells you, am I in danger? Am I in danger? Am I in danger? And you hardly sleep. And that's kind of that anxiety inducing if it's a new neighborhood. Yeah, and after 2 weeks, you don't hear the church bell anymore. And oh, I didn't hear the train all day. Is the train not working? Or so I think that's kind of that initial change is you need to give yourself time. And some people just don't have time because they need to get work done now.
Right. I think that whole, like, the settings, like, I'm sure there's other settings that I haven't, or that have been released in new experience, like new things and the things that I haven't found yet or whatever. But one thing that is as someone that does custom themes, I've also found that because you can modify WordPress, it gives you all the ability to modify it, just like you can modify the admin area with an admin style sheet. And I found just like putting a couple lines of CSS to like turn on some borders and add some extra padding and like not hide things. Like I want to say, I think my CSS file that I added was maybe 10 lines. And I'm like, it feels much better. And I think that it's just a matter of finding that groove, finding that, okay, well, what is bothering me? Oh, is it everything's going crazy? Okay, well, do I either just like find some settings or that's really, yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Did you publish those 2 lines or 10 lines?
I don't know.
Can we put it in the show notes, Tracy?
We probably could. I think
we could. I think we need a Women in WP.
It is actually in the right. I was thinking about doing that, but like I used to some of the code examples for my talk at WordCamp US. So I might even have some of those slides, so we could just put some of those images in there. It's messy code, but whatever, it works.
Who cares? It works.
Exactly.
Right.
This would make great content for our upcoming Women in WP.
A long time I had the title duct tape programmer because it just works, but don't look at the code.
Duct tape programmer. That's
oh my gosh, that's great. Okay, so give us your top, like your best Gutenberg tips. Like what does every person that's starting out need to know and do to make it really better than how it comes?
So one thing is the / command that I really love. It's you type and then you hit the next line, and then it's if you start with a /, you can select the next block that you want, or you can start typing without the slash, or you can start with Markdown. So this is kind of a universal toolbar, pretty much, yeah. But or command line. But command line, people get all upset about it. But if you do /I, it's an image block, yeah. Or /G, it's a group block kind of thing. That's very helpful when you're a very keyboard person and you don't want to use your mouse, everything. And so if you have a long post and you have fiddled with it for a long time, it kind of gets a little slower, although it gets not as slow as a classic editor. But if you have, I'd say 20, 50 blocks in there, you want to jump around it. And there's in the top toolbar on the left, there's one that gives you a list of all the blocks, and you can click on them and it jumps you directly to that page or to that section where you want to go. Yeah, so I use it for when I have, I don't know, many headings and a table of contents, and then I just want to change something further down. I want to scroll, and just go up there, click on it, and then boom, I'm there. Yeah, so that's very helpful. What else? If you need a little bit more, so one plugin is probably for anybody who does serious work with Gutenberg. Very helpful is the Editor's Kit by Jeffrey Carradine, because he put some stuff in there that should be in core, but the development team hasn't psyched up to that or hasn't made a decision yet, but it's his plugin, he puts it in there. And so one of them is to remove the title, if you have a hero image. Yeah, with the cover image, you can put a big hero image on top of it with a title, but you always have the post title on top of it in your theme. You can kind of remove that. That's really helpful. And some other, here has additional image styles. Yeah, so out of the box, the editor has a normal image and then a circle image as a style. And he adds some diagonal images to it, and yeah, kind of, that's really cool. Yeah, so he has quite a few gems in there. Recently, I found a little Easter egg in his plugin. When you hit a carriage return 4 times, it all of a sudden comes up to, oh, you hit it 4 times. Do you want a spacer block in there? And then it gives you a spacer, and you say yes, and then it gives you a spacer block, yeah, instead of kind of, as you do in old things, yeah, kind of enter to go further.
That's
it's really awesome. Yeah, so there are quite a few things there. What else?
What's your favorite, like, third-party block collection?
Oh, I'm still hung up on co-blocks or atomic blocks, because yeah, those were the first that came out and were really wooing the community. I really need to get back and test some of the other block collections that are out there, like the Cadence theme collection is very good. And GoDaddy just came out with, so Rich Tabor from the CoBlocks is now with GoDaddy, and he has just released a GoDaddy theme with some nice full page layouts as well as block patterns. So that's really, yeah, if you want to get start right away with it, it's really interesting. Yeah. What else?
I just want to sit and have you tell me all the things I'm not doing with Gutenberg, so that because I've not been one that's loved it. I use it, but it's not like my primary thing. And, you know, I have clients that have already been on the classic editor, and I ask them, do you want to stay with this? And they say yes. And I'm like, okay. And I just kind of I've had my head in the sand. So I am so excited to learn more about things I could and should be doing with it. Do you have good resources? Like, where should people be going to find out more?
So the WP, so the documentation, there's a reason why I kind of signed on to documentation, end user documentation, because since 5.0, there hasn't been any updates. And we are now releasing 5.4. So I need to catch up on that on the WordPress.org site. But a WP Beginner has some awesome resources for someone starting out. That's definitely, we can definitely put that in the show notes for content creators. I also have on the Gutenberg Times some secrets on it, like how do I get my image to be left or right aligned, because that's a little bit different. It's faster, but it's different. So I never could make, and how to use that. Yeah, Gutenberg Times. I need to do more about for the content creators there. Yeah.
Well, and we'll include links to all of those things in the show notes.
Yeah. And there is one that I think it's the site is called gogutenberg.com. There's kind of an overview of all the blocks and all this, how to kind of do things. Yeah, it's
Nice.
very nice.
Yeah, because it's overwhelming to me to think, oh, there's so many blocks, so much to do.
Well, so Amy, to go back to what you said, do you want to change? No, I anticipate that answer from everybody of our clients. Said, well, I don't want to do classic editor, so I'm going to switch them over and say, this is new now, and call me if you have a problem. Yeah.
That's what I did with my clients. I was just like, this is the new thing. Let me know if you have questions. And I gave them a couple little tips. And there were some things that we were doing that were harder with Gutenberg. And so we had to have a couple little, tutorial workaround kind of things that they were used to doing, maybe some short code things that weren't now Gutenbergized. And so they needed to know what the short code was to put in, because there wasn't a way for them to automatically insert it. But mostly they've gotten through just fine.
Yeah, we have quite a few sites actually that are hybrid, where some custom post types still use the classic editor, and the Gutenberg is only switched on for posts and pages, but not for the custom post types. Yeah, or if we have.
Yeah, a lot of my sites are like that because of my customized theme stuff. Yep. But slowly trying to move it over and redo that. So adding those, kind of some of the layout things that I created custom for my starter theme that I use for development, and then just recreating like ACF blocks that match those. So because those work really well for my clients and stuff. So it's
I can see that I think there was a big jump in Gutenberg adoption as soon as Elliot London released his ACF Gutenberg blocks, because now they could just use what they knew in PHP, but the content creators had this block editor experience. So that was really a great jump in acceptance.
Yeah, I just taught that in our last meetup and people loved it. And it's so much, it's awesome. And then there's also a paid helper plugin that will kind of give you all the code that you need for your template. And so even makes it easier if you're kind of a non-coder to be able to whip together these ACF Gutenberg blocks.
And there's another one out there. It's called Block Lab. They didn't start with legacies on the like ACF. Kind of, we need to be backwards compatible and kind of bring everybody along. Though they started out new, but they also provide a system where you have a field group and then you template in PHP and you kind of hook it all together for a content creator's block experience. So that's nice too. And there's another one called Lazy Block that does that too. Yeah. So
Lazy block. That sounds like up my alley right there.
I'll just stick up all our meetup links because we've done several Gutenberg meetups and covered all these. We'll just stick that all in the show notes.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being with us today. Before we go, can you let everyone know where they can find you online?
Well, you can definitely find me on Twitter with BPH. That's my My initial is Birgit Pauli-Haack. And on the WordPress Slack, same account, BPH. My DMs, my direct messages on Twitter are open. You can also send anything via email to pauli@gutenbergtimes.com. Questions, suggestions, comments, praise.
Lots of praise. We'd like to give a special thank you to Malcare for sponsoring this episode. Want to be on the show? Sign up on our website at womenandwp.com. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram and join our Facebook group. Thanks for listening. See you next time.